troubled by contracts between people doing work for civil projects and the repudiation of signatures. And because the Indians at that time were very anti-British, he had to find a way to validate signatures. And so he took his oil ink, which he used for his seal, and he spread this ink on the hand of a man called Raj Konai and made him put his hand on a document and used it for identification. And he then thereafter was using a whole handprint as a method of validating contracts. And he went on refining this system for many years until he came back to England, when he trotted round to Scotland Yard and he said, "What do you think of this?" And at the same time, a man called Henry Forbes was doing work on classifying fingerprints, just the tips. And it was Henry Forbes who worked out a classification of fingerprints with words like wall and loop and arch. And fingerprints began to be used as a method of identification in crime detection. The very first crime, curiously, that was solved by the use of a fingerprint was in Argentina, where a policeman had just read about this new idea in a police magazine, found a bloody fingerprint on a door jamb, and put two and two together. So that was another Herschel discovery, which has continued to be useful in this world. Could we go on to the next picture? We're coming almost to the end of this. This is, there you can see some of the fingerprints that he used. And the next one too, please. And these are my great uncles and aunts. The family's almost coming to an end. Margaret Louisa died of meningitis when she was only 15. Uncle John was considered to be rather dim. And he wasn't really, he was only dim in comparison with the rest of the family. Down here is dear, dear Emma Dorothea. She was a lovely woman. Next is my grandfather, Arthur Herschel, and his wife, Ellen McCartney. They had 3 daughters, and he was a specialist in concrete, and he went out to rebuild the civic buildings in Kingston after that disastrous hurricane in 1909, I think it was. And so my mother was born in Jamaica. And that's my mother. She is the last person who was born with the name Herschel. She died in 1942 as a result of a thrombosis after childbirth, and with her death, the Herschel family as a dynasty came to an end. The name has now died. And that's all I can tell you. Strange how a family can come from very humble origins and yet achieve extraordinary things. As long as a human being doesn't shut their mind, they can get almost anywhere. Any questions? I might be able to answer them.
Question for you. What is the building here in Jacksonville on Herschel Street that you're involved with?
What is the building?
Yes.
It was an original 1921 quadruplex, and I wanted to name it after a woman, and I thought, who is this Herschel Street named after? And I went down to the Florida Archives and researched it, found out it was named specifically after Sir John Herschel and was corrected about how to pronounce that name. And I thought, well, he's got to at least have had a mother, and I'll use her name. And as soon as I began to research, of course, Caroline became the person that I decided to name my building after. And the more I researched the Herschel family, the more enamored I became and amazed I became. And part of my design as it evolved was to invite the relatives that I discovered online to come over for the dedication to the building, and I was more shocked than I can tell you that she said yes.
So what is the building now?
What is it?
Yes.
It's a restored building that's going to be sold as condominium units. And I've spent going on close to 3 years working on it.
It's stunning, it really is, because the interior is very true to the period.
And I'm going to put a little sign up that says the Herschel slept here, because they are.
She's so nice. Yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Who was first?
From your reading of the notes of William Herschel and his descendants, from the time we came to the third on, was there any indication that there was any lack of free spirit of inquiry? Was there any government or official